Hi there. Making big changes can take its toll mentally. There's the fear of the unknown, and then there's also the fear of, well, either what if it doesn't work out, but then what if it does work out? And I when I first started posting real estate content, I had that same fear of the unknown. But then eventually, I researched the crap out of YouTube, researched my competition, but then also decided, well, what speaks to me on a deeper level. And I love data so much that when I found two concepts that spoke to me, and I realized that I could merge them and make them into my own thing, and then I would research the psychology behind it to see how it would work. Oh, I get really excited. That's kind of how I feel about this content as well. And it just makes me that much more excited every time I record because it's like an extra hook in the water. And even when I say that and I think about fishing takes patience, right? I have never fished. I want to try fishing, but I have yet to. So one of these days. Um, but the funny part is that the more I've been thinking about it, especially today, um, yes, every video of this I've been referring to as like a hook in the water. But I think that sometimes it can take so long to heat up because, you know, you're barely putting hooks in the water, right? When you're fishing, you tend to have like one pole. Maybe if you've got a boat, you might have like three or four poles, right? But for the most part, it's one person and a fishing pole, and you just wait for something to bite. But I prefer to think of what I'm currently doing as like alligator fishing, alligator hunting. Like there was a period in time when I had cable that I really went down the rabbit hole on watching the TV show Swamp People. And if you're not familiar with how they go alligator hunting, they literally go take their boat out in the swamp and they hang hooks with meat off of them on a bunch of different trees, and then they go out like the next day and they go check their hooks to see if they've caught anything. And that's how I feel like when I'm posting all of this content. I am putting a ton of different hooks in the water. And best part is I don't need to go manually check all of the hooks. I just get to put them all out there. And I know that right now I'm recording video number 27 because I write the number on my journal entries. I don't write them on the videos, but I write them on my journal entries. And I know that video 27, I'm just warming up. Like I've mentioned this in another video, but my process is when I hear a phrase or when I think of a phrase that's really resonating, I text it to myself, and then I must journal about the phrases in the order at which I text myself. And I know that not only do I already have 40 total journal entries written, but then I've got another 31 or 32 on top of that I've texted myself. And it's been fun because I just I get to I get to get a little bit deeper on the topic every time I think about it. And so many of these topics are so universal that because life is like a bit of a circle sometimes, I text myself something when it's really resonating, and then by the time I go to record it, like a couple weeks or a month later, and suddenly I feel it from a different perspective. And just makes me excited. And I feel like you can get that energy from these videos. I think you can tell how excited I am. And don't mind me. Um, and I think that my energy coming across is part of what like what draws people to me in the first place. Now I know my energy is what draws people to me in the first place. Like I know I'm a hoot and a half. I crack myself up, and like at the end of the day, it's hard to not want to laugh when somebody else is laughing, you know? So if I'm having a grand old time, then most people around me end up eventually having a grand old time. When I worked at 7-Eleven when I was in college, and I worked like the 6 a.m. shift. And the thing you need to understand about me is that was a brutal shift for me to wake up for. And I also don't drink coffee, and I rarely drink pop or soda. And so like pretty much when I was awake at 7-Eleven, I was like, working the 6 to 2. I was awake from just my pure energy. And they like, because I worked at a corporate store, they were very firm on like every time somebody walks in, you have to like greet the person, right? And so it's like it was like a Pavlovian response after a while, where every time you'd hear the doorbell ding, didn't matter what I was doing, I'd be like, "Hello!" Like I would like, and um, because I just tend, my default mood is a pretty darn good mood. Okay, even like I have chronic stomach problems, and so some days are just really bad days. But even then, like it's just, you got to ride the wave, where sometimes just because it's bad, like it was a bad morning for me this morning, but like I still ended up making it to the park by noon because it was just a bad morning. It wasn't a bad day. Um, and so like same with work. Like sometimes, sometimes you have a bad meeting, but it doesn't mean you're like the entire work day was crap. And so when I was at 7-Eleven, I I was in a good mood. And there was this one guy who, I swear, like did not smile. He came in like every single day, and he would refill his double gulp with Mountain Dew every single day. And I was always super chipper while ringing him out. He had like the exact change, all that jazz. He like barely acknowledged you. There was only one long-term employee there who he like would actually interact with positively. And I worked there for maybe like 6, 9 months before I switched to a different store. And when I was leaving that store, I remember it was like one of my last days, and I'm like ringing him out, all that jazz. I'm used to him not talking to me, and that was the first time that he talked to me. And his only comment to me was just like, "You're just always so chipper when I'm in here." And I just like I was so stunned, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, "You're talking to me," um, like, and it's just like these little things that like it could have been like me talking to a brick wall, but I just kept going at it, and eventually I chiseled away at that hardened exterior. And I just think about that interaction where every single day, like I work there like 4 or 5 days a week, so like I saw him a lot. And it took until that last day for him to finally crack. And I feel the same way when it comes to like this content, you know? Like I know that like me switching content will have resulted in a loss of a number of subscribers, or people that click on the video and they're just not really feeling my vibe. That's fine, because I know that the right audience will self-select, and I'm putting a bunch of different hooks out in the water. And so all I just got to do is wait for the right nibbles. And I know that they happen. The data shows me that they happen. My past shows me that they happen. Even when I even when I didn't offer consulting, like when I first started posting on YouTube, I had already started doing consulting like through the city at that point. And then I started doing paid consulting via just like referrals, but I never talked about it or offered it anywhere in my description on my videos. But then I still had people find ways to like, or reach out to me via email and kind of ask, hey, do you offer like consulting, like mentorship, yada yada boom boom. And I did long-term mentorship through the city, but then when it came to like actual consulting that I like found via YouTube, I prefer to just do, one-off sessions where like we properly deep dive. And right now, like there's 60 minutes, but I'm also like not super firm on it where I'm not like, there's a 60-minute cutoff. I specifically like bake time. I always do this with meetings. I bake time because I want to make sure that whatever topic we're flushing out, we have the time to flush out. I don't want to be like, oh, well, nope, I got to run. I have another meeting, because then you're not getting that person's full attention. And like, how is that fair? But this is just me warming up, and I like to end all my videos with a question. So, today's question is, what is some advice that you are listening to that does not serve you? Is all conventional wisdom would tell me to not switch paths like this and to not fully abandon my past path. But here I am doing it anyway. And the early numbers that I've seen make it very promising for the future. So, what advice are you following that does not actually serve you? Because maybe it's time not to follow that anymore. And have a great day.